Welcome to this eLearn Security video training lesson on clickjacking. Clickjacking is a technique, also known as user interface, UI redressing, where an attacker tricks a victim into clicking on a resource, such as a link, button, images, and so on, that is different from what he is actually intending to click on. Technically, an attacker that wants to perform this attack creates a malicious HTML page. This page can contain two overlapping layers, one malicious and the other the actual target of the click. The malicious layer is what is visible to the victim and contains an apparently innocuous resource. It could be the play button of a video, for example, that the victim should feel secure clicking on. The target layer, included via an iframe, is invisible to the victim and contains the resource that will actually be clicked. This layer usually contains a button or a link that will perform an operation that the victim would be unwilling to commit or perform under normal circumstances. In order to work, we have some prerequisites. The attacker can load the content from the target website. The attacker can make the content of the target website to be on top and set it transparent. Moreover, the attacker should be able to make the content of his website line up perfectly to what he wants to click on the target. Now that we know what clickjacking is and how it works, let us see a few examples to help us better understand the attack. The target web application for our attack is hosted at the following domain: voteforthecompanyoftheyear.site. As we can see, it is a simple web application that allows users to vote for a specific company. The first thing we have to check is if we are able to load the content of this page in our website. Our website is hosted on the domain clickjacking.site. As we can see, the content of the page is the same as the target website. We have just created an iframe pointing to the target web page and set a few CSS rules to make it appear well aligned. Let's inspect the code of the page to make things clear. Here we have our iframe, and as we can see, the src value is set to the target web page, while in the right pane, we can see some CSS rules that help us make the content of the page well aligned. So the first condition is satisfied, and we are able to load the target content. Note that the goal of the attack is to trick the user to click on this button here. Therefore, trick the user to vote for the elsefoo.com. Let us open the source code of our clickjacking page and edit its content to start the clickjacking attack. First, let's delete the HTML comment here in order to display the content of our page. Our victim will see this content. Moreover, let's set the opacity of the iframe to 0.5. This allows us to see and distinguish the two layers of the page. Note here the z-index property. The target iframe has the z-index property set to 10. While our clickjacking page is set it to 0. This means that the target iframe will be on top of the two layers. We can now go back into our browser and see what it looks like. As we can see, the two contents are displayed. Of course, the target page is less visible since we've set the opacity to 0.5. Moreover, since its z-index has a higher value, it overlays the content of our attacker page. Nevertheless, we can see that there is some text here, and a button at the end of the page. Note that we've set the button position in this section of the page because we want to trick the user to vote for elsefoo.com. Let's now go back once again in the source code of the page and set the opacity of the target iframe to 0. So we will display only our attacker page. As we can see, once we reload the page, only the content of the attacker page is visible. But do not forget that the iframe of the target is on the top, so any user interaction with the page will be on that page. Let's prove this and inspect the HTML code on the button here. As we can see, since the target web page is on the top, if we click here, we're going to click on Vote elsefoo, which is the button loaded with the iframe. So even if it's not visible, thanks to the z-index property, we are able to trick the user to click on something different. Let's prove that the attack works by clicking on the button here while inspecting the Net tab of Firebug. If the attack works, we should see a GET request to the page vote.php on the target domain. As we can see, it works. Although it seems nothing happened, we actually issued a request to vote.php with the company parameter set to 1. Of course, no changes appear here because the opacity of the iframe is still set to 0, and then we do not see the response of the page. But if we change the opacity settings through Firebug, we should see the response. So let's open the HTML tab, select the iframe, and set the opacity to 1. Here, there is the response of our action. We actually voted for the company. Now that we know how the attack works, let us see how we can simply enforce our web application security and defeat clickjacking. The easiest way to do this is by setting the X-frame option response header. This will instruct the browser to not allow framing into other domains. So let us open the index page of our target application and uncomment the following line. This is a small PHP code that sets the frame to same origin. In this way, other domains are not able to load the contents of the target web app via iframe. Let's save the edits and try to open the attacker domain once again. As we can see, if we inspect the code with Firebug, the content of the target web page is not overloaded. Indeed, the head and the body tag are empty. And this concludes our video lesson on clickjacking. Thanks very much for joining us.